right, what's going on, winners? Hey, I want to welcome you to another episode of the Win All Day podcast show. Man, I'm super stoked right now. I have a guest and a special guest, and I'm bringing him on the screen right now just because he has the biggest biceps in America, and also because, yes, he is a Super Bowl champion, and also because many of you within the Win All Day family and circle have asked and requested this episode. So before I introduce my guest, you guys, you know what time it is. It is time for our Win All Day winning confession. You know, at Win All Day, we believe that if you want to live a life of winning, then you got to speak winning words. So you do your job, I'll do my job. Just repeat after me. Today is my day. Nothing will get in my way of me being the best version of me. I am here on purpose. I have a purpose. I am strong. I am passionate. I am fearless. I choose faith. I am a winner. I will win and win all day. Yes, you are a winner. And after this episode, man, I believe you are going to be able to increase your winning percentage. So without further ado, I already brought him on the screen. His name, most of you can't pronounce. I had to ask him how to pronounce it. Setema Gali. Setema Gali. Is that right, brother?
JC, you're right on, man. Setema Gali, brother. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I love your energy.
Come on,
I love
bro.
the passion. I can feel it. So grateful to be here, man.
Hey, we're grateful to have you, man. Seriously, brother, I know we've connected on Instagram. I had multiple people reach out and just say, man, you got to have this guy on your podcast. We've spoken on some of the same stages at different times, running a lot of the same circles. And one of the things that people did say, man, in the messaging, just speaking of energy and passion, multiple of the messages said, man, this is a guy that has an energy and a passion like you, Coach JC, wants to change the world, shows up with just a high energy and makes everybody he's around better. So without further ado, this is our guy. He's a results coach. Man, he has a podcast himself, a Super Bowl champion, a best-selling author, and a 5-star husband and dad, which is the most important role we play as men. We're going to talk about winning today. We're going to talk about men. And so, my man, do me a favor, man, for the guys or the girls or the listeners or the viewers that may not know you, man, I would love to give you this opportunity to introduce yourself. I gave you a very informal, or I should say formal introduction off a bio, but tell everybody who you are, where you come from, and how we got to where we are today, brother.
First of all, brother, huge props and gratitude. I'm grateful to be here. I want to acknowledge you, acknowledge your energy, your love, and your passion for living a purpose and winning. So thank you, JC. I'm so honored. You know, like married, my best friend. We were best friends for 5 years. She's my goddess. So I call her my goddess. We've got 3 young kings in training, age 15, 12, and 10, Zion, Israel, and Judah.
Come on.
I went to college at Brigham Young University, was a captain, all conference, right? Did the football thing, went to the NFL. Spent time under Robert Kraft, Bill Belichick, the teammates with Tom Brady, the GOAT.
Yep.
Was there for the first Super Bowl. So it was amazing, right? Get a Super Bowl ring, grown man crying. You know what it takes because you've been in that arena, right? Where it's a lot of sacrifice, a lot of paying the price to go get the prize. And I came home from the NFL. And I'll kind of give you the Cliff Note version. We can dive into it. But came home from the NFL. I'm like, what do I do with my life? Because most people, right, when it's in football, it's football, right? It's football, football. Then I'm at home. I'm like, okay, like football's done. Like that is chapters closed, hung up my cleats. So I'm like, I'm kind of lost. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll tell you in my heart of hearts, JC, I always wanted to do what I'm doing today. And, 20 years ago, there was no courses. There was no laid out path to do it. Like, I know you help people to do this. So I jumped into the mortgage industry. I had a good friend of mine who was like making a ton of money. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, I do mortgages. So I jumped in and I took the same things I did in football, put it into mortgages, took off. Took that into real estate, took off. Took mortgages, real estate, put it into hard money and development and land, took off.
Love it.
Then 2008 came. And in 2008, my man, we were not ready. So we lost big. We lost everything. Evicted out of our home, all our properties, big number, right? Just gone. I took the Super Bowl ring that I had earned with the Patriots. And my wife drove me to the airport. I cried like a baby. I was sobbing. Like, like you brother, you know what it takes to get to the top, to the pinnacle, and to actually win the Super Bowl. Right? It's like no small deal. I sold the ring to put food on the table for my family.
Wow, bro.
And a year later was bankrupt. Like bankrupt, everything gone. We're living in a 900 square foot townhome. We went from 6,000 and 8,000 square foot homes, cars, and everything you could imagine to now humble to the dust. That was 10, 12 years ago. Today, I live on the beach here in Destin, Florida. I coach people from all over the country. We got some international people as well. And I write, I speak, I influence, I impact, I inspire, and light a fire to get people's fires going. And here we are, and I'm grateful to be on your podcast. And that is kind of the Cliff Note version of who Setema is.
Wow, bro. What a story. What a powerful story, man. Hey, let's dive into a couple things. First of all, obviously, you know, we could touch on a lot of things, but you said the GOAT, man. How was it to play with Tom Brady? I know everybody listening, they want to know that. Obviously, he's a legend. He's the best quarterback of all time, arguably. How was it to play with a leader like that?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was his second year, my rookie year. So he was a year ahead of me. And, you know, we had the same agent. So I had an advantage, right? So I get up there and he's like, hey, man, Steve and Don, they told me to look out for you. So we get to know him. He's good friends with one of the other D linemen, Dave Nugent out of Purdue. So I get to know him, spend some time with him. And one of the best parts about Tom that most people don't know. So it's an off season, right? We win the Super Bowl. I'm in there. I'm going to go in on a Wednesday morning. So there's no workouts on Wednesday. But I'm going to be gone Thursday, so I go get my workout in on Wednesday. I get in there at 5:30 a.m. because we're taking this long drive. I'm like, I'm going to go get my workout in, get up by like 7:30. I'm in the facilities, and guess who's in the facilities on a day off in the off season?
Yep.
Brady. Brady's in there, and I'm like, dude, what's up? He's like, hey, Tim, what's up? I said, what are you doing? He's like, I'm doing my work, man. And that was like that small interaction on a day off in the off season. To see him in there watching film by himself, I was like, impressive. So I'm not surprised when I see what he's done for 23 years of his life. He's amazing, kind, humbled, gentle, fierce competitor. Yeah. Such a great man.
I love it, man. I love it. Thanks for sharing that. So let's jump into this, man. I think, you know, what you said, and the word that's coming to me is identity, right? And so we've been blessed to work with a lot of high level individuals, especially pro athletes. And I just read a stat. I was looking for the updated numbers because we're about to finish some personal development we're doing with an NBA team. And this is the stat. Is over 60% of NFL and NBA guys, okay, when they're done with their career, will go through a divorce, bankrupt, or homeless, right? And so one of the things that I do is, you know, build people. And so I want you to talk about that, the identity crisis maybe that you were in, because you said, all I knew was football. Football was my thing. How did that affect you when football was done and you had to hang the cleats up? Did that cause some trauma? Was there a transition time? And then do you think, how did you overcome to create a new identity really outside of football, but we're talking as a man, as a human being?
Well, beautiful question. So 100%. Right. I got done with football and I couldn't walk. Like they were like, you can have surgery and keep playing, but I'm a God-fearing type of man. And I was praying, I was fasting. I was like, God, I just want to do what you want me to do. If football's the path, I'll go do however many surgeries I need to have. And for me, I call it the voice. The voice was like, you're done. You're done. And I listened to the voice. So I come home, I sit in my mom's basement. I'm depressed for like a week. All I do is I'm embarrassed to go out in public because I'm like, what are people going to say? I should be playing ball right now. So I'm eating ice cream. I'm watching movies. I'm just depressed. Like I had lost myself. Definitely had an identity crisis because if you've only ever done sports, there's next year. I was done. And it was very hard. Like, what do I do with my life? I didn't know. I wanted to do what I'm doing now, but to say that back then, I want to speak on stages, influence people, change lives, and transform hearts and souls. I didn't know. So I went through this identity crisis it was the spring of 2003. I was done. So for about 8 months, I kind of just I'm in like a warehouse doing telemarketing, calling these leads. And I'm like, what? I got a Super Bowl ring. I got a college degree. I was all conference Super Bowl champion. What am I doing with my life? Like, seriously. And the way that I was able to transition was, thankfully, a good friend of mine was doing mortgages and he was killing it, right? Killing it. So when I made it my mind, I basically said, JC, I said, I'm going to take what I did in football, hard work, vision, goals, tenacity, like everything we did. I picked it up, I moved it over here, and I put it into mortgages. And I told everyone in the company, I'm going to go make 6 figures this next year. Like, I was this young kid, didn't know what, I had no concept of interest rates and processing, nothing.
Yeah.
I smashed it. I totally killed it.
Yeah.
And I doubled, and then I tripled, and I quadrupled. It all again, I took the same things that I did in football. This is the beautiful thing for athletes.
Yeah.
You know how to win on the field or on the court or on the ice in your sport. Take those same principles and take that same identity and then just put it into the next phase of life. And for me, it was mortgages, it was real estate, it was development, it was business, and I took off. It just, boom, vertical.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. You know, and here's what I would like. I want to talk to the person listening or watching right now, because I know there's people listening and watching right now that, you know, maybe life doesn't look exactly how you thought it should ended up. Right. And so for you, football's taken away. What's life going to look like? You know, that's my identity. That's what I know. For me, it was basketball. Right. And then I threw that story away, getting a young girl pregnant. And I lived with so much guilt, my man. Like, I couldn't look my mom in the eyes. I was the ticket. I was supposed to rescue my mom and my sister from the poverty-stricken life in Jersey. And when that was done and my identity was in basketball, right, I lived with so much guilt and shame. You got to that time in life after 2008 where now everything's taken, everything's gone. You are at a place where you're selling your Super Bowl ring as a Super Bowl champion. Talk to the person on the other side right now that is dealing with the guilt, the shame, and may need to make that sacrifice. Obviously, that wasn't easy for you to look your wife in the eyes and have that conversation, to sell a Super Bowl ring. Man, how did that affect you? And how did you overcome that season of your life? We're selling a Super Bowl ring, looking at your wife and saying, hey, we can't pay the bills. Like, talk to us about that.
You got it. So we get evicted out of our home. It's Thanksgiving 2008. I have my family come down. We load, like, all the cars are gone. Mercedes, Range Rovers, Escalade trucks, like everything is gone. The accounts are drained. You know, you think you have an X amount of dollars in the bank, which is a lot of money. It goes fast when you're paying out teams and people and leases. And so my family comes down, they move us out of a house. And I had a buddy of mine who goes, hey, I got this house. It's got 4 months. Just go live in there till the bank forecloses. So we move up there living out of suitcases. Then we go to another home. These are still big homes, right? 6,000 square feet homes, bedrooms, bathrooms. And I still have this, like, I'm going to pull us out of this thing. I'm going to pull us out. And by the time we made the move, we got to the 900 square foot townhome, JC, I was so depressed. And I was depressed because I was losing everything, but I was hiding I was embarrassed. Like, here I was, big man on campus at BYU, Super Bowl champ. We had made multiple 7 figures. And then when that 2008 crunch came, we got obliterated. Like, we got annihilated. So I'm in this townhome in Pleasant Grove, Utah. Bro, I am like thinking, no wonder why people take their lives.
Yeah.
I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. We could barely pay the bills. We could barely, thank goodness the landlord was so gracious. Yeah. Because we were late every month on the rent, which was used to be like one of the car payments. It was like, we had gone back so far. And here was the tipping point. So the cell phones get shut off. We're late on our bills. I'm just feel like I'm drowning in water. And my oldest son now, who's 15, his name is Zion. He's pouring cereal and he takes the milk and he pours the milk into the cereal and it starts to overflow. And I look at him and I'm stressed. We don't have money. I'm like, Zion! And I'm yelling, what are you doing? And I'm yelling at my poor son who's like 2.5 years old. And I'm trying to grab the words and his eyes just well up with tears. And I'm like, what the heck are you doing, Setema? Like, you can't pay your bills. You're yelling at your son for wasting milk and cereal.
Wow.
Like, you don't even have a car. My father-in-law bought us a car. So we went from brand new, $500,000 worth of cars to my father-in-law buys us a car. And that's when my wife's like, baby, what are we going to do? And I knew what I had to do. She never once said, like, we already sold her wedding ring. We sold everything.
Mm.
And I was like, I know what I got to do. So when I talk about having her take me to the airport, I'm holding my ring, brother. It was so hard. Like, I was like, how did I get here? And to the person out there, I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I was in this place of humiliation because I was flying cars, the private flight. Now I'm giving up this Super Bowl ring that I had worked so hard to get. And it was like, that was definitely an unforgettable day for me. I was like, so I made up my mind then, though. I was in New York City. I gave him the ring, and I never in my mind saying, I'm going to go figure this thing out, and I'm going to help people, like you say, build people. We're going to go build and transform hearts and souls so people never, ever have to give up their ring or give up their child or give up their marriage or give up their health or give up their family legacy like I gave up the ring.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. So as a businessman now, what would that ring be worth nowadays? I mean,
I don't like, I offered the guy, I was like, I'll give you $100,000 cash for this thing. And he wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I realized he's not going to give it up. There's probably no monetary amount he'd give me. But I told him, I said, when you're ready to unload these things, it would sure mean a lot for me, for my sons.
Yeah.
They've never seen it.
Yeah.
They see pictures. They've never seen the ring with our last name, Gali, right? Gali, because every Super Bowl ring every championship ring has the name. So one day I will be speaking on a stage. One day I will be telling the story. And one day I will pull the ring out and put it on my finger.
I love it, bro. I love it. I'm believing with you, and we stand in agreement. And I believe that guy might even sew the ring back into your life and not make you pay a dime, because God can do miraculous things. Hey, I want to talk about this really quick. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." And so if you're listening or watching right now and you're going through discouragement, you're going through adversity, an obstacle, a trial, a storm in life, I want my friend's words to motivate you and inspire you, that you can know that God is no respecter of person. If he did it for him, he can do it for you. And I remember in a Tony Robbins book, Tony Robbins said something along, the greatest force in life is a soul on fire. And I want to talk to you about that. Well, what was your why? What was that driver, that juice? Because you said, I laid there, guilt, embarrassment, all these emotions that are real. And if we're not careful, like you said, I know why people get to a place where they could take their life, but that strong why, back against the wall, right? Do or die, desperation. I'm talking about a purpose. I'm talking about a driver, a juice to say, I've got to make this happen. Sense of urgency to absolutely go out there and do something. What was your why at that moment for you to say, the milk's running over, I'm yelling at my kid? What was the thing inside you that was so strong, the force on fire, that allowed you to flip it? Because I just did a podcast on this, and there's no story without the struggle. Right? And so many times we want success, but we don't want to go through the struggle. We want the testimony without going through the test. We want to step on stages and have the amazing message without going through the mess. And I know for me, it took me hitting rock bottom, my most painful moment, to flip it. And that became my purpose and what brings so much passion today. So what was it for you at that moment in time? What was your why? What was the driver? What was the juice that must for you to say, do or die, I'm going to make this happen?
Nah, that's the easy answer for me, JC. Spring of 2011, like I'm depressed, man. I get emotional because I can feel it. We're living in this townhome, and I know in my heart, I knew, like some of you hearing this, you know you were meant for more.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at my wife, I'm looking at my two kids, my two sons, Zion and Israel. And my why was like, no, like my wife married a king. I'm raising kings. I want them to look at me and say, that is my dad. I want to be like him. I never wanted my sons to say, my dad like played football. I never wanted to have my best days behind. I wanted my wife to say, that is my man. That is my man. So my holy cause, number one, was my wife and kids, their faces. I wanted them to be proud of me, and we were not living that way. Number two, my why. I call it a holy cause, right? This is my holy cause.
Love it.
My mom and dad, they crossed the Pacific Ocean. They came from the islands. They learned a new language, right? They came to a country that was predominantly white back in the 60s and 70s. I saw racism and prejudice against them, but my parents, they were like superheroes. They never affected them. So my wife and my sons, my parents' sacrifice, and my God-given abilities. JC, my holy cause was like, there is no way God made me to play a small game and to be tripped up by some little small financial, bubble that took place. Like, he didn't create me to be this small dude. I knew it. Like, my heart was the voice. I call it the voice. It was like, Setema, you already know what you're supposed to do and who you're supposed to be. You already know. I've felt the witness of the Spirit enough times for God to say, my son, right? Like he said to Moses, my son, like he said to me, son, get up and it's time to go to work. And when I'm praying like, God, just what do I do? God, help me. And here along comes the opportunity. A good friend of mine recruits me to go knock doors for a living as a door-to-door salesman, 100% commission. And he asks me the question. He says, Setema, how much do you need to make in the next 20 weeks for this to be worth it? I'm like, dude, if I can make $100,000 in 20 weeks, I would do it. And he goes, done. I'm like, what? He goes, athletes kill this thing because you're competitive.
Yeah.
So I jump in this first year of door-to-door sales in middle of April. I look at my wife in the eyes and I tell her, I was like, I've never done a sale before. You're going to pack up the car in 6 weeks. You're going to drive across to South Carolina with our 2 boys. I'm going to go get a head start on this summer. We are not coming back. We are not coming back. In other words, like, I burned my boats, right? I burned the boats. I went all in. Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, lean not unto thine own understanding. Acknowledge him on all thy ways, and he will direct thy path. God was like, it's time to go knock doors. I get up to South Carolina, no money, no food for pillows and blankets. I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to provide my own. So I sleep on my suitcase that night. Put a heater up. Brother, I was a man on a mission that first summer. My wife's face, my kids' face, I could not be stopped because my why, my holy cause, my wife, my goddess, my 2 sons at the time, didn't have the third one, my mom and dad. I'm like, these people, my ancestors, have been waiting for me to come and break the chains of this thing that I'm in, and I never look back.
Wow. I was interviewing not too long ago on this podcast, Ed Milet, and he wrote a book. Ed Milet wrote a book, The Power of One More. And so I think of you, we were talking on the podcast, how you can be the one in your family to change the entire direction of your family. And so what a responsibility. It's a pressure as well. But Milet talked about he was that one in his family to change the financial status of his entire family. And so I think if you're listening right now, we're talking to a guy that was able, through the grace of God and a holy cause, to create a whole new story. And if you're listening right now and your life doesn't look exactly right, or you're watching right now and your life doesn't look exactly how you want it to be, I want to encourage you, because I was getting chills. I was getting emotional with you as you talked about your holy cause, where we're talking about a purpose. And without a purpose, that's when a lot of people give up. Right? There's a lot of people that have goals and dreams and they never accomplish. We heard this saying before. You probably heard as well. It's like the richest place in the world is the cemetery. How many people die, right, with their goals, their dreams, their ambitions, the things that God put on their heart? They were never accomplishing them. And so right now, I want to encourage you, if you're listening, if you're struggling, if you're trying to find a new way, if you just know things aren't where you want to be, if you're trying to create a new story, if you're going through hell right now, an adversity, a storm, a trial of life, find your why that is so strong that you can say, I have this thing inside of me that I got to get up after the pain. I got this thing inside of me that's going to make what's in front of me and what I desire and the calling and the purpose that God put on my life stronger than what's behind me, the past mistakes, the failure, the guilt. I have this thing inside of me that's so strong, this fire that's burning, like my friend calls it, a holy cause that's inside of me that's so much bigger than what's outside of me, what I see in the natural at the moment. I can fight through the delays, the obstacles, the adversity, the trial, the storm that allows me, because I have a strong why, to get up after the setbacks and the obstacles, to keep showing up, to fight through the distractions of life and the storms of life. And I just want to encourage you right now, if you're listening, like pause this and find your why. Find a reason to keep going right now. Find a reason to keep fighting right now. Find a reason to get to that next level right now, knowing, like we said earlier, that you were placed on this earth with a purpose for a purpose. What a powerful story, man. And so let's dive into this really quick. We're talking about faith. You threw out a Bible verse, and let's talk about the how, because obviously I know God was a part of this and the faith pillar inside of it for you. And so what were some of the things strategically that you did going through these seasons of life, multiple different seasons of life to get to where you are today? What are some of the things that you'd say, here are some of the pillars, here are some of the, we call them commitments or life values, right? I created 10 commandments when I was going through hell in life and hit rock bottom, $400,000 in debt, suicide. And I'm like, hey, the Bible talks about 10 commandments. God created 10 commandments. What if I had 10 commandments I lived my life by? So what are some of the rules, the values, the things that steer your life? Obviously, faith is one of them. Obviously, fitness is probably big for you. You got huge arms and you can tell you take care of your health. And like, what are some of the things that you made non-negotiable in your life that you would say help build the best version of you to create the man we're looking at today?
You got it, man. JC, first of all, before I answer this question, I love you, man. I could feel it. When you were praying before we did this, I can feel your love and your passion. And just like, I could feel the power of God in you. So thank you for having me. Thank you for asking the question. I really appreciate it. So behind me, right, my backdrop here, we got physical, spiritual, relational, financial. I look at these 4 pillars and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it like this. Okay. My body's a temple. So first and foremost, I can control what I put into my body, what I do. And if this thing gets overweight, obese, low on energy, I don't take care of it. This is the house that holds the mind, the brain that holds the mind, that allows me to dream and have visions and ambition. So I exercise. Did you sweat? I take care of my body. Like, it is a weapon. As an athlete, I use that word weapon. For some people, they don't like that. It is a vessel. It is a temple. It is a conduit. It is the house, the holy temple. So I take care of my body. It's non-negotiable. Hydration, supplementation, sleep, like that whole thing. Spiritually, I never stopped praying to God, man. I never stopped. And he has guided me. He has blessed me. He has told me, like, a lot of the answers were like, get off your knees and go to work and go do the arduous, mundane, boring, laborious, like go into the wilderness, my son, right? In Christian scripture, there's so many stories about wilderness. I've never forgotten. I have always retained in my remembrance what God has done for me. And a lot of times the answers were go and work. Relationally, I date my wife every week. It's not negotiable. I spend a lot of quality time with my sons. I text message my boys, my parents. I date my family because that is one of the foundational pieces of my life. When the storms come, which they will, no one is immune from it. Yeah. I have my beautiful goddess. I have the relationship with my sons, the relationship with my team, the connection to my parents, and of course, great people like you. So you lock arms with people and you lean on them. And then when they need to lean on you, you pour into them, right? I can give back to them when they've been given to me. And then of course, financially, like there's skills, like there is, one of the principles we have out of our 13 principles, dollars follow value. So I'm like, look, if you want more money, go get it. The way to go get it is create value in the marketplace because people exchange their dollars for something they value more, right? I have an iPhone, I got a Mac, I got these mics. Mm-hmm. There was an exchange of money for value. And the greatest way to do value in the marketplace is develop your skills. Or as you say, you grow people, you grow them mentally, spiritually, emotionally, grow their skill sets. And for me, these 4 pillars, that's why it's the 4 things that we do. Like, if we win in all 4, like, we win. And that's what I teach people. It's like, look, I don't want to go be physically strong and jacked, but have no purpose, have no family, lose my body and fitness and health.
Come on.
I want to do it all. I want to have it all. So that for me, JC, is like the big thing for us, is like holistic approach to like really living and enjoying and experiencing life.
Bro, I love it. I 100% believe, and first of all, I thank you for saying what you said earlier. I 100% believe this is a divine appointment. Like, we've never met before. I've had multiple people reach out to me and say, you guys have to connect. And I think about who the people are. I wouldn't say they're strong faith-based people. I wouldn't say they're like, they just knew. They knew. And so many things that you just said is so much stuff that we coach and we preach and we live out. And I think the simple formula that I want everybody to hear right now, don't miss this, is spiritual plus natural. I tell people all the time, if you want to win, there's a secret formula. Natural, you can try to do everything in your own will. And I tell people all the time, when you hear somebody says they're self-made something, run from them. Because that's a dangerous place to be, but you need to work in the natural. But when you do things in the natural, faith without works is dead, like you just said, and you combine what God could do in the spiritual, supernatural things happen. And we see in the church world, I do a lot of work in the church world, faith-based world speaking, and you see people come up to the altar and they go to Sunday and they go to church and then they leave and nothing changes because they don't change. The transformation happens through work. And I love that you said that, because that's a very important message for believers, for faith-based individuals is, hey, don't get me wrong, prayer can change everything. And I believe there's some of you listening right now that might be inspired and motivated to say, wait a second, these are 2 grown men that are telling me part of their breakthrough in life happened through prayer and the power of the word. And you call it a voice, God, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. But that is a lot of times where your breakthrough starts. Right? Maybe we're listening right now and you need to surrender and get on your knees knowing that you don't have to fight this battle on your own, because I've been there and I tried it. And maybe you need to just thank God, ask God, and shut up and listen and allow God and the voice to speak to you. But then, like my friend said, is some of you just got to make a decision today to do some work. Stop overthinking stuff. Stop getting paralyzed. Stop waiting and do some work. And I believe that your breakthrough is on the other side of you doing the work. And so I want you to talk about that really quick. Some of the work that you do with people, right? What do you do? If somebody said right now, what do you do? We talked about speaking, we talked about influencing, but really, what do you do and how do you do it? If somebody said, man, I love this guy. What do I come to you? Do you do coaching online? Like, do I have to buy your book? Like, what do you do?
So I transform the hearts and souls of men and women around the world if they're committed, and I help them to live powerfully so that they can create the results that matter. Like, that's kind of the elevator pitch. And what I mean by that is we have a program called Immersion. Shield made an immersion for the women, Titan immersion for the men. It is a 3-week experience, 2 weeks virtual and 1 week here in our HQ, where it is powerful. Like, we just had a class last week. We had 10 women come through.
Come on.
And they leave unrecognizable. Like, we get to the core, like the 2 directives: unlearn all the things you've been trained, taught, and educated your whole life. Your belief systems about money, about intimacy, about God, about what's possible. Sometimes life just beats you down to the point where you think, oh, this is how life is. I'm like, no, there was a season. So I take a man and a woman, like figuratively, I open them up. We remove all the garbage off their heart and off their vision. And then we rewire and reprogram them with these principles of power and prosperity. By the time they leave, they have a clear blueprint, and we coach them. Like, I coach people 12 months at a time. The reason I do 12-month coaching is, like, I used to coach people for 4 weeks, 8 weeks. They get it. They move, and then they were done. And I tell people, give me 12 months with me. Your world will never look the same. I had a guy come in, and one of my one clients, he's losing $250,000 a month, $250,000 a month, like losing.
Wow.
I asked him a question. I was like, how much longer can you continue to do this? With tears in his eyes, he's like, I can't. I'm not showing up with my family. I'm not showing up with my wife. He was physically not where he needed to be. He had his biggest year last year. He's physically fit, spiritual leader of his family. We've had people come in. They'll lose 50, 70, 80 pounds off their body. They'll get more clear than they've ever been. They'll have their best financial net to gross net. Their marriages are either on point, like on the verge of divorce, get back, or they'll go home and they'll have that conversation. It's time to move on. So I get people to move, like really do the work and take responsibility for their lives. And I love what we do, JC. It's definitely, I'm not even going to pretend. I've been inspired to build the curriculums, the content, the models that help people to move forward and create results that truly matter physically, spiritually, relationally, and financially.
Wow, I love it, man. I love it. And so it's so cool, bro, because you're talking and it's very similar in what we do, just in a different way. And so we have 5 pillars, a winning 5. And so it's crazy because people come to me all the time and they want to grow their business. And I speak very similar to them. And what you're saying is, like, if you want to build the business, like it's the businessman, right? The kingdom rises and falls with you, right? The leader, you, the king. Same thing in an organization. And I think there's so many men, especially because we deal a lot with men that are just losing in life, right? And listen, life's not easy, right? Every single day, especially as men, we're in a battle. You talk about this guy that's, losing a $250K a month, you said? That's crazy. That's crazy, right? And so many times we show up as men and I think we're searching. And one of the hardest things for men to do is to put themselves in an environment to win. And one of the hardest things for men to do is ask for help. And because of this, we suppress everything. I'm guilty, right? I'm JC. I can fix it all. And then I have to get humbled and remember, oh my gosh, right? And because of this, we lose our passion, we lose our purpose, we could lose, true fulfillment. And so I think really, to be real talk right now, when you're talking like I feel like we're in war, like you're almost helping people fight the war that they face every single day to show up and perform, to show up and walk out their calling and their purpose and fulfill their dreams and their goals, but not just that. It comes down to the person, and we're all about transforming the person. And you're an athlete, and I'll share this with you. And then I want you to jump in. Is when I was going through what I was going through, I realized I had to figure out a way. I was very desperate, down and out, very similar to you. And I got to a place where I was like, what'd you do as an athlete, right? And so I remember as an athlete, you always had a coach, right? And all successful athletes, you have a coach, right? All successful athletes, you have a playbook, right? How you train each season, how you go into a game. You don't just go on a football field and run the plays. There's X's and O's. Sometimes you're calling audibles, especially if you have Tom Brady as your quarterback, but most of the time you have a playbook. And then you have teammates. And I thought of it back then. I was like, I don't have any of those things in my life. I don't have any mentors or coaches. I have no idea what the heck to do on a daily basis and what plays to run to get out of this mess. I'm $400,000 in debt, suicidal, in a custody battle, fighting to be a dad for 8 years. And I threw away my calling and my purpose. I'm a loser. I'm guilty, like all this stuff, my false identity. And so I remember thinking, and you don't have a team. And so I went out and I found coaches and mentors, people that were way above where I wanted to be in 5 different areas, right? Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, relationship-wise, family as a dad, financially, and fitness. And I got around these people and they started coaching me just like athletes. We're successful because of coaches. Then I realized they gave me playbooks. They told me what to do. And I just started running the plays. Now we call it stacking wins, compounding interest. And then I was like, hold on a second. I've got to find people that like a winning team. And I started to get around men, right? People that were winning, people that were playing at a higher level than me, people that weren't just yes people, that told me what I needed to hear, not just what I wanted to hear. And all of a sudden, I had this whole playbook built and I create a whole new story for my life. And so now that's part of our coaching. When people come to us, we're like, hey, everybody gets a coach. Everybody's going to be given the play. We build your entire playbook and we're going to put you on a winning team. No one does life alone. And it sounds like very similar in what you're doing, where you're saying I'm helping people create vision, but you're not allowing people to just be out there on their own. You're putting them on a winning team, getting them in an environment to win, and you're coaching them to win. Is that what I hear you saying?
Exactly what you're talking about. And see, like I used to, back in the early days, I used to look at like, oh, they're my competitors. And I'm like, no. There's people who they will hear your voice that need to hear your voice. There's people who will hear my voice, even though there's a Tony or this guy or this, like I'm called to lead a group of people. You're called to lead, like we're beacons of light and we were called. So yeah, I got coaches. Our whole group, the reason why we get results is everyone has a coach and a committed community of right. We call it our circle of champions.
Love
You know,
it.
we just had one 2 weeks ago. Like all of our clients came to town for 4 days, and we spend time to reset, recalibrate, refresh, renew, recommit. And I love it. Like that's the game. It's exactly what you just said, JC. Coaches, accountability, shared vision and ambition, right? This a combined commitment, and deals get made,
Yep.
wealth gets increased, people learn from each other. That's the game. Like if you don't have a coach, you need to go get one. I've got a number of
Yeah.
coaches, and I always will. I'll never not have a coach, and I coach people, and I know
Yeah.
you coach people in your masterminds. And so, without question, like if someone wants to get ahead, one of my mentors told me a decade ago, probably the most influential thing that'll help you more than just about anything else, and I call it the accelerator. It's just the people you surround yourself with. If you get into James Clear, Atomic Habits, or I love his quote. He's like, join a group where the desired behavior is normal behavior, and you get into your mastermind. I know you guys, that behavior is, there's a high standard of winning. So that is the ticket, my man. Get around great people, and then like add value and take value and add value and continue to win.
I love it, man. I love it. I want to talk about a couple more things, and I want to respect your time. So, what do you do? I think so many people, and I could tell you're not this guy, that they get very comfortable in life. It's very easy, and when you get comfortable, I know in my own life, it steals. It steals from you, right? And there's a lot of people right now that are listening, I believe, are comfortable in life, right? And you get comfortable, it steals from your calling. You get comfortable, you get complacent. And so what do you do to make sure you don't get comfortable and get complacent with your calling, your purpose? It doesn't matter what level you're at, right? I talk to high performers all the time. You're always going to have that thing inside you say, hey, ease up a little, right? You don't have to be so intense. Why are you so over the top, right? Take another day off, take a vacation. What for you is the things that you have in your life that force you to stay uncomfortable? Like for me, I get up at 4:10. It sucks. I do some cold plunges. I don't even know if I believe in all the health benefits. Some of them I do, but it sucks. It's uncomfortable and it disciplines my mind and I hate it. Like, what are some of the things that you do that keep you uncomfortable? Obviously, the gym is a big part of it. But what's some of the things that you do and can encourage other people on their side, maybe some habits that they could, utilize to get uncomfortable, to stretch their abilities and figure out really who they are and the potential they really have?
Yeah, man, beautiful question. You're speaking my language. So we live in what we call seasons, right? Football season, a basketball season, right? There's X amount of weeks. So we call ours a 12-week season. And we're always in seasons. 12 weeks is not so far out, but it's far enough out there that requires you to have to transform to accomplish an outcome. And I tell our people, look, if you're not living in a season, you are in cruise control. And you said it right, being comfortable leads to complacency, leads to cruising, which leads to a crash, which ultimately leads to a crisis. Backs against the wall, I'm in scarcity. Oh, I'm not, man. We climb out, then we repeat the cycle. And I tell our people all the time, look, there's levels beyond levels. And if you want to stay on the top, which means you're lifting and helping the people, which means you're making more money, which means you're giving more money away and you're inspiring, I'm like, you always have to set the next outcome. And it's like climbing a mountain with no top. And it doesn't matter if you get the jet. It doesn't matter if you buy the building. It doesn't matter. Like, it's always about the principle 8 for us is the purpose of existence is eternal expansion and value creation. So committed to a life of expansion, and value creation means I'm committed to serving, impacting, helping, giving of my time, talents, and energies to get in my faith language is to build in the kingdom of God or to help other people on this planet. So you got to have goals. You got to have things that you're working towards. And it goes from a place of what I call accumulation to then utilization. In the beginning, right, brand new money, you start to accumulate stuff. Oh, look at me. And then it's like, hey, it's not about the accumulation. It's how I use that utilization. How do I use everything that I have to help more people? And one of the greatest things we can do with our money and our resources is to give it away, like really help and listen to the voice so it empowers people. And it's like, we call this thing in our season, like current reality, where we're at. I cast out to what I call a 30-year legacy. And we help our people map this out. 30 years from now, how do you really want to live? We get clear, reverse engineered to a 10-year vision. 10 years ago is like this, or I can remember 10 years ago, reverse engineered to a 3-year picture, to a 1-year goal, to a 12-week outcome. And we constantly, every year, our people do this. Okay, cast again is the vision, and the vision changes. The legacy changes because as people's income rises,
Yep.
that future changes. It gets big. We have people that are setting outcomes before. They're just trying to break even. Now they're like netting multiples, 6, if not 7 figures. Like for them, that was impossible. It was not even on their radar.
Yeah.
And that's just like the money's the small piece. We're talking relationships are better. They're happier. They're at peace. They're experiencing life and they feel life. They're not just go, grind. It's like, I love my life. And most people can't say this. So that's what I do is just set big outcomes. Right. Go play the game of life. Go play to win. And if you're not winning, you're learning. And if you're learning, then you can adjust and win. And brother, I'm like you, man. We're setting outcomes and listening to the voice. And when God tells me to go do something, I go. And
I love
God
it.
tells me to write a check, I write. It's painful, but it's how you got to live to go win every day. I
love it, bro. And I want to end on that note. And here's why. And I'm going to ask you one more question. I probably actually 2 as we close. But when I was at my lowest point, I did 2 things. I had a friend say, enroll in this Bible school. And I enrolled in this Bible school. And it's the last thing I wanted to do. I was down and out, suicidal, hated who I was. And I got a hold of the word of God. But I started to understand through a professor there how he talked about renewing the mind, Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to things of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And he talks about how you renew the mind and transformation. And I started to sit there and this thing clicked in the inside of me. I don't remember a lot that happened in Bible school because I was so down and out and desperate. But I remember thinking, what if I just took these biblical principles that they're saying are promises, and what if I implemented them? I was watching all these people at Bible school. They were in a prayer closet for an hour and they were believing and going up for miracles and things weren't changing as much. And I was like, wait a second, I think you have to implement it. I started taking these biblical principles and implement it. Then I got a hold of Tony Robbins and started to get a hold of personal development. So people ask me all the time, what changed your life? How'd you build? Because I tell people I built Coach JC. I cut ties and severed ties with John DeConneely, which is my full name. I hated that guy. I lived with and I created a new story and created Coach JC. And I did it through the word of God, implementing biblical principles and surrendering. And I did it through personal development. And you know what's crazy? My outcome that I wanted, it didn't happen right away. The situation externally even got worse for many years, but I got better. And I challenge people all the time. Hey, listen, we're going to create vision. We're going to figure out what you want, but then we're going to leave that there. And we don't need to focus so much on the outcome. Let's focus on who you need to become. And so as I became a man of faith, as this thing stirred inside of me, and I want to ask you this question is, I started to be very bold in that. And I wasn't a religious guy. I'm never a religious guy. I get along with everybody. I work with pro athletes. I'm very accepted in a lot of circles because I'm not that guy that's condemning and judges people and you're going to hell. But I believe in what I believe in. And it's cost me deals, but it's also opened crazy doors. And so I want to ask you this, at a level that you're at as a high performer, as an influencer, obviously you're a man of faith, how much do you put that out there, right? How are you so bold with that? Right? Is it part of your coaching? And how do you message that? How do you do that? Because I've seen a lot of guys where I'm on a call with them like this on Zoom, and they're like, well, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I might offend somebody. I'm like, just be you. Be authentically you, right? And so I want to hear your heart on that, right? Is faith is a big part of your life. You say the voice, you're talking about the holy cause. How much do you put that out there? Do people know like you're a man of faith? It's part of your coaching. It's who you are. How much of your identity is that and what you stand for? How big of a role does faith play in your life?
JC, it's a big role in my life and I put it out as is necessary. And the reason I say that is when I go into an audience, I listen, I can really listen to the voice.
Yep.
And sometimes it's as simple as, this audience, I'm going to say the word, I may say, hey, I'm going to use the word God, and then I'll just create this thing around like, listen, stay with me. Don't let that change how you hear. Cause some of you don't believe in God. That's okay. You believe in source, creator, universe, Big Bang, whatever that is for you, I will use the word God. And so just stay with me. If I quote Buddha or Jesus, right? I just tell them, just hear this so you can hear the lesson. I'm never afraid to share my beliefs, and I never let it become a stumbling block for other people. Sometimes that's people, like I had a client one time, he's like, God is like Santa Claus. I'm like, okay, cool. Then what is it for you? They're like, there's nothing. Oh, great. Then it's just called the universe. Does that work for you? And they're like, yeah. So we started using the universe as this power. And 2 years later, my man gets baptized into a church. He's leading a men's group in his church, believes in God. Right. So in fact, another one of my close sisters, she's a client, like she just got baptized 2 days ago into a church. Yeah. And she accepted Christ as her savior. And it was because she sat in this office having a conversation, and one thing led to another. And all of a sudden, 4 months later, she's like, I found my savior. I'm like, there it is. So I'm never afraid. I just think you listen to the voice. You really listen. Again, I use the word voice. And I'm just like Romans 1:16. I'm not ashamed, man. I'm not ashamed because I know who has got me here. And I know who's been my support, who is, like the scriptures say, who's led me with the pillar of fire by night and a cloud by day. And like I have been through a wilderness, just like you have been. And my God has guided me. So never ashamed, my man, never.
Come on, bro. I love it. I had to ask you that question. Well, let's do this, man. I can talk to you all day. And once again, man, I feel like this was a divine appointment. I feel blessed to cross paths with you and connect. We actually spent some time down in Florida, which is not far from you, down the 30A area.
That's like 45 minutes from me.
Alice Beach, all down there, Rosemary. And so, so do two more things before we close, man. Number one is where can people find you? How can they have more access to you? I know you have a podcast, a book. What I'm going to do, you have a book, right?
I do have a book. It's called Winning After the Game. We've got another one. It's crazy. Winning After the Game, right? It's the story of how, like, the game was football, and I had to learn how to win after that game. And then our new book, which comes out in January, is called Winning is the Game.
Bro, I love it. I didn't even know that. All right, so here's what I'm going to do, because I work with a lot of pro athletes. I am going to buy 7 books, okay, Winning After the Game. And if you're an athlete, all right, I'm sewing that into your life. If you message me after listening to this podcast, you tell me the biggest takeaway for you, because I want you to win after the game. And that's a big, big mission of ours. And so I'm excited about that, excited about your book coming out. Where can people actually find that book? On your website, Amazon? Throw the links out there for us, brother. You
go to Amazon. You can get it on Amazon. If you go to my site, Setema Gali, that's SETEMAGALI.com, you'll see social media links, and the site's got our podcast. And look, I can boldly say this, like, I am not the dude for everyone. I'm really clear. Like, when people come to coach with me, they know right away, this is my guy. And there's some people who are like, this is not my guy. If I'm your guy, let's make it happen. If I'm not, then take everything you've learned from me, and then you find the mentor, you find that guy or that gal who's your person. So there you go.
Well, you're never not anybody's guy because you're too intense like me, right? You never have that problem. Hey, give us your last and final thoughts, man. I always like to give a guest this opportunity. Is there anything that we didn't get into that you want to say to the audience? Is there anything you want to promote? Is there any last minute thoughts? Is there what's the message you want to leave? I'm just blessed that we got to introduce you to our audience today. I know we're going to be able to cross paths again and do some cool things together. I feel it. But anything you want to leave the audience with right now? Anything that's on your heart? I just want to give you this opportunity, my man.
Yeah, thank you. It's this. If you really knew how short life was, like, it's short. It could be next week. It could be a year from now. You'll be a bag of bones 6 feet under. If you just really understood that, you would not be afraid to go and ask for anything in life. Like, if you just knew life is a small blip, you'd go make requests of yourself, of people, of God, and you wouldn't be afraid to go get it. And that's what I want to share, because a lot of people, you said it earlier, JC, people go to the grave with their song. They never sing the song they were supposed to sing. They never ever try. They never go after. And I'm like, why would you let fear be your God? Why would you let fear govern you? So go after what you want. Like, go move, right? Get off the fence, make a choice, choose, and then move. And have some faith in yourself and faith in a God. And if you'll do everything that JC talks about, that I can just feel it. Your life 12 months from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, you can look back and say, I made a choice. I got off the fence and I started playing a bigger game, and you can get it. It takes work, but you can go get it.
I love it, man. We are so grateful for you for taking the time It's one of your most valuable assets is your time. For you to take the time to just speak into the lives of the Win All Day family and our audience, we're humbled, we're grateful. Setema Gali, SETEMAGLGALI.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes,
.com.
Yep.
.com. Go buy the books. Reach out to him if he's a good fit for your coaching. And guys, that concludes this episode. So who loves you? We love you. I hope that blessed you today. And until next time, I want to remind you one last time, you were born a winner. So go win and win all day. Thanks again, my man. Much love. Grateful for you, bro.